Hey Mike, it's been a while. What's the latest on the DVD project? That was the last we left you with.
Yeah, the project where we were going to take the Patterson film, that would be the documentary telling about his Bigfoot research, and put it on a DVD, and then we were going to add the actual film footage, of course, of the creature doing her famous walk, and hopefully some of the footage of Patterson pouring casts. Anyway, the whole recorded version of the film, we were going to put that on a DVD, and then we were going to add to that some material that we were going to get from both Bob Gimlin and Mrs. Patterson. And we had an excellent interview with Mrs. Patterson, and we had a great interview with Bob Gimlin also. But we ran into some snags along the way. I'm not going to go into any detail or try to explain it, but there was misunderstandings, and there were some things that the man... See, we had a producer was going to do this with us, a man who is in the business of making DVDs to market. And he has a track record, and he has an inventory, and he had agreed to do the production, cover all the costs of producing these units, and make sure they got sold. And he was going to give us a percentage towards the museum as a fundraising thing. And so, great, we're going to make some a little bit of money for the museum. Of course, that was going to be based on what he sold. And it turned out that he was actually, I think, hoping to get some stuff for nothing that rightfully he shouldn't. In other words, if Mrs. Patterson is going to be on his DVD and Bob Gimlin, then they should get some kind of a royalty or some kind of kickback for it, obviously, not just the museum. And so this was a part of the problem that we came to a disagreement about. And there were some other snags along the way. And so, to sum it all up, that project is out the window, the original plan that we had, which was going to be a great piece if we could have pulled it all off, but it's not going to happen. And it's not going to happen also because there was some other people that kind of sabotaged it and put in some misinformation that helped to make the misunderstandings a little more severe than they needed to be. And I'm not going to go into detail on that. But I also want to say something. I made some remarks on the last video I did where I was discussing this because I was all enthusiastic. And one of the things that I was talking about on that last video, and I've since received some criticism for it, so I want to respond to that criticism and apologize for anybody that I offended. And that was, I spoke to the issue of aging witnesses. In other words, we have Bob Gimlin, we have Mrs. Patterson, Patricia Patterson, we have Al Hodgson, for example, an elderly gentleman that lives in Willow Creek and was hobnobbing and spending time with all the early Bigfoot researchers there. He was kind of his general store was Bigfoot Central. And when we went to Willow Creek to hopefully interview him for this project that we were talking about, his son intervened and wouldn't let us meet with him because he said that Al was starting to forget things, and he didn't want him to look foolish on a video, and I can understand that. And the reason that I spoke to it at all is because I was speaking to the concept that when you have a subject like Bigfoot, a subject that has a history, a subject that is going to always be there and have a history into the future, that the eyewitnesses and the people that experienced it firsthand and have some knowledge of this, it's important to get their testimony archived before they die. And everyone dies. I almost did not too long ago. I know that. And that's why that made it all the more something of importance to me. The idea of getting a really good interview from Mrs. Patterson, Bob Gimlin, Al Hodgson, some of the old-timers up there before they passed on. And that was part of what we were hoping to do with this project also. And whether that all ended up on DVD or something really was just part of it. It didn't matter that much as to getting it archived. And so now we do have these interviews, and we have this information. It's part of the museum's archive, and so it will become part of the collection. And what is it the museums do? They collect and archive materials that help to keep history alive. And that's what we're doing with the Bigfoot Museum, is trying to archive that. And to Al Hodgson or Bob Gimlin or anybody else who might have been offended because I said that men as they age tend to lose their hearing or lose their memory, I apologize. I meant that as no assault to anyone, and I don't think of that as a negative thing. I think it's a part of life cycle. And when we're born, you know, we cry and we poop in our diapers, and if we live long enough to be 100 and some odd years old, we're kind of doing the same thing when we die. And I'm sorry, but that's an observation I've made in my life, and it applies to me as much as everybody else. And I don't think I should have to be that worried about talking about it openly. But I guess some people were offended that I even said it, and so I'm apologizing to those people who took offense. None was intended. I meant no disrespect to Al Hodgson, to Bob Gimlin, or to anybody else that's aging and starting to lose some of their memories and have trouble hearing. It's just what happens. And that's why you can end up having misunderstandings. You know, a lack of the ability to hear everything. Some of the details of what you've discussed with somebody get lost. And it can end up in misunderstandings. I'm sorry. But I know. It's the truth. And I think anybody else that has gotten old or has been around elderly people will understand what I'm talking about. But anyway, once again, if I offended anyone by talking about those issues.